Her father sat her down and asked her to choose. Her dream university, the one she'd worked toward her entire life, or her 11-year-old cousin's education. Not both. The money could only go one direction, and he needed her answer now. She said no. She chose herself. And the moment the word left her mouth, everything changed. Her aunt stopped speaking to her. Extended family started calling. Her mother's face went carefully blank, because in choosing her future, she'd also chosen to let a child suffer for something that wasn't her fault. And now, everyone was watching to see if she'd feel guilty enough to change her mind. This isn't a story about money. It's about what happens when someone else's crisis becomes your responsibility without your consent. When saying yes means sacrificing everything you've planned for. And when saying no makes you the person who abandoned a child. It's about the impossible math of family obligation, and the moment you realize there's no answer that doesn't cost you something. She's 17, an only child, about to graduate and move on to university. In her country, private universities carry the reputation, the connections, the future. Public schools exist, but they're not the same. Not for the opportunities she wants. Her parents make enough money. Not wealthy, but comfortable. Enough to send her to the private university she applied to, the one she got accepted to. The plan has been in place for years. Work hard, get in, go, build a life. She has a cousin, 11 years old. They're not close. Different ages, different lives, the kind of family connection that exists mostly at gatherings and holidays. The cousin's father walked out, just left. And in their country, child support isn't something you can easily access. There's no system that forces him to pay. Her aunt is trying, navigating a legal structure that wasn't built to help her, but it's slow, uncertain, expensive in itself. The aunt is struggling, trying to keep her daughter in a decent school, trying to maintain stability while everything falls apart. And she needs help. That's when her father stepped in. Her uncle, to the cousin. He told his sister he'd pay for his niece's tuition, that the girl shouldn't suffer because her father abandoned his responsibilities. That family takes care of family. Noble, generous, correct. Except he didn't have extra money sitting around. The money he was offering was already allocated, already promised. To his own daughter's education, he came to her with a proposal, not a demand. He was careful about that, a choice. He explained the situation, her aunt's struggle, her cousin's uncertain future. The girl was 11, at a critical point in her education. If she had to switch to a worse school now, it would follow her, affect her opportunities, her life trajectory. Then he explained the alternative. She could go to public university instead of private. It wouldn't be as prestigious. The connections wouldn't be as strong. But it was still education, still a degree. She'd still have a future, just a different one. The money that would have gone to her private tuition could cover her cousin's school fees for years, through the critical period until her aunt got back on her feet, until the legal situation resolved, until the father could be forced to pay. He presented it as her decision, told her he wouldn't force her. But he also made very clear what he thought the right choice was. What kind of person sacrifices a child's education for marginally better networking opportunities? She felt the weight of it immediately. The impossible position. If she said yes, she gave up everything she'd worked for. The school she'd earned her place in. The future she'd planned. The path that had been promised to her since she was her cousin's age. If she said no, she became the person who chose prestige over a child's welfare, who had more than enough and refused to share, who watched her cousin's life get harder and decided her slightly better university experience mattered more. Her mother stayed silent during this conversation, didn't offer an opinion, didn't tell her what to do, just watched, waiting to see what choice her daughter would make. She said no. Here's what nobody wanted to say directly. Her cousin's father's failure was being transferred to her. The responsibility, the guilt, The cost. He abandoned his child, and somehow that created an obligation for her to sacrifice her future. Her father's generosity was real. His desire to help his sister was genuine. But the help wasn't actually his to give. It was hers. Her education, her future, her opportunities. And she was supposed to hand them over willingly, gratefully even, because not doing so would make her selfish. The math only worked if her dreams were considered negotiable, if private versus public university was treated as a luxury rather than the result of years of work and planning. If the difference between the future she'd earned and the one she was being offered was characterized as trivial, but it wasn't trivial to her, and saying so made her the villain. Her aunt stopped speaking to her, didn't say why, didn't explain, just went cold. Other relatives started calling, asking if she understood what she was doing, reminding her that her cousin was just a child, that she had advantages the girl didn't, that this was what family meant. No one called her cousin's father. No one redirected their anger toward the person who actually created this situation. He got to disappear, and she got to be the one who wasn't generous enough to fix what he broke. Her mother's silence continued. Not supportive, not critical, just absent from the debate, which somehow felt worse than taking a side. The decision was made, but it wasn't over. Her father started looking for other solutions, trying to find a way to pay for both, working extra hours, cutting family expenses, attempting to make the impossible math work. He didn't say it was her fault, didn't have to. The implication hung in every conversation. If she'd just agreed, this wouldn't be necessary. If she'd been more flexible, more selfless, more willing to understand, her aunt found a cheaper school for her cousin. Not as good. Larger classes, fewer resources, the kind of place that limits futures rather than expands them. And everyone knew whose fault that was. Not the father who left. The 17-year-old who refused to give up her university. She started second-guessing herself. Late at night, running the numbers, wondering if public university really would be that different, if she was being dramatic about prestige and connections, if maybe everyone was right and she was just selfish. But then morning would come, and she'd remember. She'd done everything right, worked hard, earned her place, planned responsibly, and she was being punished for someone else's choices. The worst part wasn't the guilt. It was the knowledge that no matter what she did now, it was too late. Changing her mind wouldn't fix things, would just prove everyone right about her being selfish first and guilty second. She's going to private university in the fall. The acceptance stands. Her parents are paying for it, though the atmosphere at home has shifted. More tense, more careful. Her father treats her with a kind of distant politeness, like she's a colleague rather than his daughter. Her aunt still doesn't speak to her. Family gatherings are awkward. People take sides without saying so explicitly. She can feel the judgment in how long it takes people to greet her, in who asks about her university plans and who doesn't. Her mother finally broke her silence last week, told her she understands the choice, even if she doesn't know if she'd have made it herself. Said that being family means sometimes you can't win, that someone always ends up carrying more weight than they should. It didn't feel like support. It felt like acknowledgement that she'd been placed in an impossible position and then blamed for not handling it perfectly. Her cousin is in her new school now. Her aunt is managing. Barely, but managing. The legal case against the father is moving forward slowly. Maybe eventually he'll be forced to pay. Maybe not. And she's left carrying the weight of a choice she should never have had to make. This story is about the invisible redistribution of responsibility. About what happens when one person's actions create consequences that get assigned to someone else. When the person who causes harm faces no accountability, but the person who refuses to absorb the damage becomes the problem. Her father's generosity was admirable. His desire to help his sister made sense. But generosity becomes coercion when it requires someone else's sacrifice, when it reframes their earned opportunities as luxuries they should be willing to surrender. She was asked to solve a problem she didn't create, to fix a crisis she had no part in. And when she declined, she became the crisis, the new problem, the reason a child was suffering. But she wasn't the reason. She was just the only person who said no. This is the particular burden of being young and having something others need. People treat your future as more negotiable than theirs, your plans as less sacred, your dreams as more flexible. Because you haven't lived them yet, they somehow matter less. And if you insist they do matter, you're selfish, ungrateful, don't understand real struggle. But she does understand. She just also understands that her struggle counts too. So here's what you have to decide. Was she wrong to choose her own future? Should she have given up the university she earned for a cousin she's not close to? When someone else's crisis becomes your emergency without your consent, do you have the right to say no? Even when it's a child who suffers as a result? Is it selfish to protect your own dreams when helping means sacrificing them? Or is it survival? And when the person who caused the problem faces no consequences, but the person who won't fix it faces all the blame, who's really wrong? Where do you draw that line? Because she drew hers, and now she's living with what that costs.